"You're not invited to Thanksgiving. This is only for family," my dad said, casually scooping mashed potatoes onto his plate, as if I were just another stranger at the door. The rest of the table didn't flinch. Not even a glance. My sister dabbed her lips with a napkin, whispered something to her husband, and smirked. That's when I raised my glass of sparkling cider. Quietly, gracefully. Not a word left my lips. But when the toast was over, I walked out. "My name is Reagan Silvers, I'm 33. And if you think you know how this ends, stay tuned. What do you do when the people who raised you erase you one holiday at a time?" It wasn't sudden the way they exiled me. It started years ago, skipped invites, forgotten birthdays, changed group chats. My name slowly vanished from the guest lists until all that was left was silence. But this time they made it official. At their warm candlelit table, surrounded by laughter and apple pie, I was declared not family. The irony? That very night, their house was kept warm with the $8,600 I quietly wired to their utilities last month. Their November lights? Their cozy fireplace? All funded by the girl not invited. So, as I stepped into the icy air outside, I took a deep breath and pulled out my phone. I opened my banking app, hovered over the payments list, and with a calm, controlled swipe, I started pressing cancel. One by one, $8,600 of silence was about to speak louder than all their toasts combined. Inside, they passed gravy. Outside, I walked into the cold. And somewhere between the frost and the fury, I decided this Thanksgiving wouldn't go to waste. They thought I'd just disappear. But some ghosts don't haunt. They build. The thermostat clicked off before dessert was even cleared. My sister texted, "Is the heater broken again?" LOL. I ignored it. By midnight, Mom messaged me directly. "Can you check the heating payment? It's freezing in here." I stared at my screen. They still hadn't realized. That warmth they'd taken for granted, the quiet comfort of always having someone responsible in the background, that was me. While they toasted Ezra's new condo. While they forgot my birthday 3 years in a row. While they removed me from the group family portrait that still hung above the piano. I was the shadow keeping the lights on. The one paying the gas bills they thought magically auto-covered. But this was my silence. My signature. My closure. I went to bed with my phone buzzing on the nightstand. The next morning, I made cinnamon pancakes. My kitchen filled with sunlight. Spotify played jazz. I ate slowly, syrup dripping down the sides, peace finally audible in every bite. 8:37 a.m. My phone rang. Dad. Declined. 8:40. Emma. Declined. By 9:15, there were 14 missed calls, 6 voicemails, and 1 frantic group chat revival with my name. All caps. Suddenly, I was Reagan Honey again. The back door hadn't opened in 5 years, until they needed me. But I was done being the emergency contact for people who treated me like a deleted file. Then came the knock. Not just a tap, a pounding. I opened the door slowly. And what I saw wasn't just someone from the family. It was someone holding the thing that had always been mine, and was taken without a word. It was my mother, in a robe, shivering, holding a tray of deviled eggs wrapped in foil, like peace could be brokered with hors d'oeuvres. Behind her stood my dad, Ezra, his fiancé, even Grandma, still in curlers. "Can we come in?" Mom asked, her voice cracking. I didn't move. The scent of cheap champagne and desperation clung to them. "We didn't mean what we said," Dad added quickly. "It was a joke. Thanksgiving was just tight this year." Ezra needed. I held up my hand. "You said it was only for family," I whispered. "So, why are you here?" Ezra stepped forward. "The heat's out. The backup generator failed. Mom's medication needs refrigeration, and you thought the beggar would save you?" I laughed. Quietly, deeply. Mom reached into her pocket, pulled out a folded slip of paper. "This is from the lawyer. We updated the documents. You're back in the will. Full share. A bribe in legalese." "Wow," I said, tilting my head. The will, the heating, the guilt. They waited. But I wasn't the girl who begged for their table scraps anymore. You know what I sent with that last $8,600? I asked. They blinked. No. I smiled. Neither do I. Because you never asked what it cost me. You only cared that it cleared. Mom opened her mouth again. But I had already turned away. I shut the door, not angrily, not forcefully, just enough to let silence speak for me. They stayed out there, shivering. 30 minutes later, I got a message. From Grandma. I'm proud of you.
Call me tomorrow.
Alone. That night, I made a different kind of toast. One for the version of me who finally knew. Family isn't who you're born to. It's who sees you and stays. By morning, the family group chat had resurrected me. Green circle, please just respond. Green circle, the heat's still out. Mom's getting worse. Green circle, can you help, even just a little? I sip my coffee. Let the phone vibrate against the countertop like a broken apology. It wasn't about revenge. It was about remembering who I'd become. For 11 years, I had paid more than anyone ever asked. For birthdays, I wasn't invited to. For repairs I never got thanked for. For love that came with a receipt and 0 returns. So, I did something they never expected. I showed up at their door with a contractor
And a clipboard.
Dad opened the door, red-nosed, beaten by the cold. Are you here to help? I handed him the clipboard. What's this? An estimate. I'm willing to fix your heating. But this time, I'll invoice it properly. Mom stumbled out from behind, her lips chapped, eyes wide. You're charging us? Yes, I said softly. Like you taught me to charge the world for anything that matters. They stared. Let me be clear, I continued. No charity. No strings. This is a contract. Like adults. Ezra's fiancée burst out laughing. Seriously? You're making your family sign a contract. I turned to her. Sweetheart, I don't work for exposure. I paid for my seat at this table. I just realized it wasn't worth the price. Mom started crying. Dad signed the paper, with shaking hands. As the contractor got to work, I left. No hugs. No warmth. Just truth. I didn't need to burn the bridge. They finally saw who'd been keeping it from collapsing all along. The invoice must have haunted them. Because 2 days later I got a call, not from Mom, not from Dad, but from Ezra. Hey, he said, voice all syrup. Can we talk? I stared at the name on my screen. My brother, the golden one. The one they all toasted when I opened my restaurant. The one who got a promotion party while I cut ribbons alone. I didn't speak. Okay, listen, he added. That SUV you used to drive, it still runs? I blinked. Why? Mom's car died. Dad's using mine. She's been stuck. Ezra, I said slowly, why are you asking me this?
He paused.
Because you always fix things. I almost laughed. Ezra, I said, I'm not a wrench. Or a backup plan.
He sighed.
So that's a no? I didn't answer. Just ended the call. But something shifted that night. Because Mom texted, we're selling the lake house. We want to repay some of what you've done. I stared at it like a hallucination. Then Dad messaged, I've asked the lawyer to take your name off the loan cosign. It was wrong of us. I sat in silence. No music. No TV. Just the hum of my own worth echoing louder than their apologies. They weren't changing because they understood. They were changing because I stopped cushioning their falls. And that was power. I stood at the window, watching the snow fall outside. For once, it didn't feel cold. For once, I wasn't the outsider pressing my face to the glass. I was the one inside, with the heat fully paid. I didn't reply to Mom's message. I didn't ask about the lake house, or the loan, or Ezra's silence. Instead, I did something I'd never done before. I reserved the largest table at Bellevue, the same place they always booked for family milestones. But this time, the reservation was under my name. No shared bill. No silent exclusion. I arrived early, the staff smiling as they lit the candles. It was just me. and a thick manila envelope beside my plate. Inside, copies of every payment, transfer, and sacrifice I had made for this family since I was 22.
Rent.
Medical bills, college deposits that weren't mine, and one bakery startup that crashed within months, my loan, their dream. At exactly 7 p.m., the hostess approached. "Your guests are here, Miss Evelyn." I nodded. "Send them in." Mom entered first, all pearls and hesitation. Then Dad, looking older. Ezra trailed behind, unusually quiet. I didn't rise, just gestured to the seats. They sat without speaking. I slid the envelope across the table. "What's this?" Mom asked, her tone already defensive. "Proof," I said, "of everything I gave. Everything you erased." Ezra peeked inside, eyes scanning fast. "You brought us here to guilt-trip us?" Dad snapped. I smiled softly.
No.
"I brought you here to say goodbye. Officially." "What?" Mom blinked. I stood, placed a black velvet pouch on the table. Inside was the key to the old family cabin, the one I restored alone. The one they always borrowed for vacations. "You won't need this anymore," I said. I changed the locks. Then I turned, one step at a time. No tears. No rage. Just calm. Let them sit in the candlelight with the weight of every forgotten favor. I didn't look back. Not this time. I thought that would be the end of it. But endings never come clean when ego's involved. 2 days after the Bellevue dinner, Mom showed up at my restaurant, alone, wrapped in faux humility. "I was in the area," she said, stepping inside without asking. "Thought I'd see the place. It's cute."
Cute.
The kitchen went silent. Even the dishwasher paused. I took a slow breath, wiping my hands on a towel. "Need something?" She hesitated, fingers toying with the pearl clasp around her throat. I wanted to talk.
About the family.
About fixing things. I raised an eyebrow. Fixing or reclaiming? She didn't answer. Instead, she stepped toward the wall of framed photos. Soft openings, culinary awards, write-ups in glossy magazines. Photos she never attended, moments they never asked about. "I saw Ezra this morning," she said. "He's not doing well. Lost the car. His promotion's under review." I said nothing. "And your father? He's struggling to pay for the cabin repairs." I nearly laughed. The same cabin they locked me out of, the same one they decorated with family-only signs at Christmas. Mom finally turned to face me. "We made mistakes," she admitted. "But family's still family. Right?" That word again. Family. The one they used like a velvet rope, wrapping it around who they wanted, shutting out who they didn't. I tilted my head. "Do you want forgiveness?" I asked. "Or access?" Her mouth parted, but no words came. Behind me, my sous chef called out, a soft reminder that orders were piling up. I turned, walked back to the line. And as I plated the duck confit, I felt it. Not anger, not sadness, but a kind of quiet, sovereign peace. The kind you earn, the kind no one can take. They never said sorry. Not properly. Not once. What came instead were half-offers. A dinner invite. A forwarded funny meme. A photo from my childhood captioned, "Good times, right?" I didn't respond. Not out of bitterness, but because I had no space left for performance. The next holiday came and went. I worked a double shift that day, not because I had to, but because it felt better than sitting at a table where love came with a receipt. The restaurant thrived. Customers asked about the signature drink named Second Daughter. I'd smile and say, "It has a quiet kick." Sometimes I caught Ezra across the street, just staring through the window. Once he came in, hat in hand, eyes unsure. He looked around, took in the warmth, the laughter, the photos of regulars who'd become family.
He didn't speak.
Just nodded, like he finally understood what I built without them. And I finally stopped waiting. Stopped wishing they'd recognize my worth without requiring proof. It's funny. I once thought revenge would feel like thunder, but it turns out it feels like silence. The kind where no one's calling you a burden. where no one's mocking your dreams over dinner, where no one's draining your light just because they gave you life. Now, when I close up each night, I don't replay old fights. I just lock the doors, wipe the counters, and breathe deep. Peace is not the absence of noise. It's choosing who gets to speak into your story. And this story? This one ends with me walking home under soft streetlights, keys in hand, head held high. Not broken. Not bitter.
Just done.
We all agree you should sell your house and give the money to your sister's baby fund. She needs it more. That was my mom, at the head of the dinner table, with her wine glass raised, as if she'd just delivered a toast instead of a betrayal. My cousins clapped. My dad gave me that proud father nod, like finally, she'll be useful for something. My sister buried her face in her hands and whispered, "This means so much." I just blinked, then smiled, and slowly picked up my phone. I opened the message I'd been saving for this moment, a notification from the bank confirming that the deed transfer had gone through. And before anyone could stop me, I read it aloud. Property sale finalized. $894,000 wired to new trust account in the name of Indigo Ray Whitman. Protected. Irrevocable. Cannot be accessed without written permission from owner. Silence. No forks scraping plates. No fake sobs. No baby fund speeches. Just stillness, the kind that hits a room when a thunderstorm pulls up outside your door. My name is Indigo Ray Whitman. I'm 32. And if you think you know how this ends, stay tuned. Because I was raised by a family that taught me to serve, give, sacrifice, but never to expect anything back. Not love. Not loyalty. Not even presence. So, I played the good daughter until they asked for my home. And I realized, sometimes, the only way to teach people your worth is to show them the cost of underestimating you. What happens when the black sheep learns how to run the farm? That night was the beginning. And by morning, they'd wish they never opened their mouths. My sister stood up first, cheeks blotchy, voice cracking. "Wait, what do you mean you sold the house?" Her hands were shaking. My mother reached for her elbow like they were two actresses caught in the wrong scene. I sipped my wine. "The house you all assumed you could vote on like a family pizza order?" I tilted my head. "That house was mine. Paid in full. Remember when you laughed because I chose a 2-bedroom fixer in a bad zip code instead of going in on Ezra's condo?"
Yeah.
That one. My father's face stiffened. He looked like a man who just remembered an overdue bill. "You're being ridiculous," he muttered. "This was about family." I laughed. "You mean your version of family, the one where I pay, smile, and stay quiet?" My cousin Amelia whispered, "You're making a scene." I set my glass down. "Let me make it bigger then." I reached for my purse, pulled out a folded envelope, and slid it across the table. My mom opened it. Her eyes moved.
Stopped.
Moved again. And then she went pale. Inside, a notarized agreement stating I had canceled my $60,000 contribution to the family investment fund, a pot I'd been pressured to join years ago. The one they all benefited from. The one I was guilted into for everyone's future. Guess whose future just got cut?
"You can't do this," my dad said.
"I just did," I replied. And then my phone buzzed. One message.
2.
7. From Ezra. Amelia. My aunt. My uncle. Even Grandma. All saying some version of, "What happened? Why are they freaking out?" Because word was already out. But they didn't know the half of it.
Not yet.
They say silence speaks louder than screams. But this silence? It sliced. Mom held the envelope like it might catch fire. "You're really cutting us off," she whispered as if wounded. "Let me rephrase that," I said calmly. "I'm choosing me for once." My sister, still wiping fake tears from earlier, lunged into performance mode. "But the baby fund? We already told everyone you were contributing. Ezra made a down payment based on your share." I leaned back. Then maybe Ezra should have used his promotion bonus instead of counting on my sacrifice. Her jaw tightened. Dad slammed his napkin down. "This is betrayal." "No," I said, slowly rising to my feet, Betrayal is publicly humiliating your daughter and trying to guilt her into liquidating her life's work. I paused, scanning every single face. The same faces that had smiled while cheering on my financial execution. You don't get to label me selfish just because I stopped bleeding for you. And then I walked out of the dining hall, past the valet, into the cool air where my real life waited. I didn't cry. I didn't hesitate. I got in my car, turned on the engine, and watched my phone light up like fireworks. Missed calls, texts, voicemails. Suddenly, the woman who didn't belong at the table was the only one who could fix what they broke. But I didn't respond. Not even when my cousin sent a photo of Dad on the phone with the bank. Or when Mom called 3 times in a row. Because there was something they didn't know yet. Something buried in the paperwork. Quiet.
But deadly.
And they'd find it soon. In the form of a letter arriving first thing Monday morning. By Monday morning, the letter had reached them. I knew because the voicemail stopped. The first message of the day wasn't from Mom. It was from the bank. Hi, Miss Elwood. Just confirming you're listed as sole signatory and owner of the joint family holding account. As per your request, access for all secondary users has been revoked. I stared at my screen, calm as still water. The account. The one they'd built under my name during the years I worked 3 jobs to fix their credit while they partied and took loans in my name. They thought I'd never touch it. They were wrong. A year ago, I'd quietly consolidated the family trust into a single asset account to streamline taxes. No one noticed. I was the only name that remained. They never checked. They assumed I was the fool, the mule. They forgot I have an MBA. They forgot I was watching. I hadn't spent a cent until now. With one signature, I froze their cards, pulled out $82,000, paid off my own mortgage, donated the rest to a fund supporting single women entrepreneurs, under my daughter's name. Let them taste silence now. By mid-afternoon, a family group text revived from the dead. Mom, we need to talk. This is bigger than dinner. Dad, you're playing with fire. Sister, you ruined us. I didn't reply. But that night, as I watered my plants, a car slowed in front of my driveway. A figure stepped out. My sister. Puffy eyes. Hair in chaos. Clutching her phone like a lifeline. She walked to my door. Raised a trembling hand to knock. But paused. Inside, I dimmed the lights. Watched her through the window. Sometimes, silence is a mirror. And what you see isn't pretty. The next morning she came again. This time she knocked. Just let me explain, my sister whispered, her voice shaking through the door like a violin string on the verge of snapping. Mom didn't mean to humiliate you. Dad said you wouldn't care. We thought you were used to it by now. Used to it? Like a hand-me-down emotion. Like I was supposed to normalize being dismissed. I stayed quiet. Through the peephole, I saw her shoulders sink. She sat on my front steps. Then came the second surprise. My mother, in her robe, hair disheveled, marching up the path with a paper bag and a phone clutched like a weapon. You have no idea what you've done, she spat. Your father's accounts are frozen. The tax office is asking questions. Ezra can't book his honeymoon. And your uncle called me crying. She held out the paper bag.
Take this.
Let's talk like family. I opened it. It was a dusty photo album, torn at the edges. Pages curled. Childhood photos. Me in pigtails. Me at spelling bees, trophies in hand, no one cheering. Birthday cakes half lit. Graduation day. Just me and my shadow. Mom said softly, "You were never forgotten." I closed the album gently, then looked her dead in the eye. That's funny, because I was never remembered either. Before she could speak, I pointed to the sign on my door. No soliciting. No guilt trips. No manipulation. She read it, flinched, and turned. I didn't need to scream or slam. I just needed them to feel the weight of absence. And absence is loud. The silence didn't last long. By nightfall, my phone vibrated with a new number. It was Ezra, my golden brother. The one who once told me, "You're good at being invisible. Stay that way." Now his voice trembled. I just need to know why you did it. I stared at the wall. My restaurant blueprint was still tacked up there, the same one they ignored, mocked, dismissed. You mean, why I revoked your co-signing privileges?
I asked.
Why your luxury condo payment bounced? He hesitated. Just tell me what you want. I almost laughed. For years, what I wanted was a seat at their table. A sincere question. An ounce of belief.
Now?
I didn't want apologies. I wanted recalibration. Here's what I want, Ezra, I said slowly. I want a world where you earn what you post. Where mom's toasts aren't theft in disguise. Where dad doesn't cash in my name. And where you, my perfect brother, learn what it feels like to build something without expecting me to fund it. He went silent. And then, the sound of something breaking. Not in my house. In his image. In the illusion he'd wrapped himself in like a golden robe stitched with entitlement. That week, I got quiet, but not inactive. I pulled receipts, transferred my shares, closed every joint account, emailed my lawyer, the one they didn't know I'd retained for years. And then I did one last thing. I posted a single sentence. Silence isn't weakness. Sometimes, it's a spreadsheet calculating your worth. The next morning, I woke up to a tag. @Mom of Winners had deactivated. And the restaurant I built? It had a waiting list 3 months long. 2 weeks later, the doorbell rang. Not a knock. A chime, soft, deliberate. I opened it. And there they stood. All of them. Dad with his pressed polo and nervous eyes. Mom in her pearls, hands gripping a Tupperware container like a peace offering. Ezra trailing behind, his jaw clenched, a man used to applause, now met with silence. No balloons. No "we're sorry" sign. Just them. And the stench of desperation. We've been talking, Dad said, voice brittle. We want to help with the restaurant now. Marketing, maybe signage. It's doing well, right? Mom added quickly. We thought we'd bring dinner. Your favorite. Lasagna, I said flatly. The one you used to make for Ezra's birthdays. She blinked. You remember that? I smiled, stepping aside but not inviting them in. Funny, I said. I remember everything. Ezra tried humor. Come on, Jules. Family squabbles, money stuff, it's messy. Let's just reset. Reset. Like I was a circuit breaker, they tripped too many times. I looked at them. 3 people who once called me a phase, a burden, a career girl with no direction. Now they were standing outside the very thing I built, hoping to tap into the electricity. I don't hate you, I said quietly. But I also don't owe you access to what you never believed in. Dad stepped forward, eyes glassy. We're not here for money. I met his gaze. I know. And then I gently closed the door. Behind it, I heard the container of lasagna drop. A small thud on the porch. A silence too full to be hunger. I turned around, exhaled, and walked back to the dining room. Table set for 1. Candle lit. And a note in my own handwriting that read, sometimes, family isn't who knocks. It's who never made you wait at the door. 2 weeks after I closed the door on them, I got a letter. Not a text. Not a call. A letter. Handwritten.
Crooked ink.
Torn edges. It was from Ezra. I underestimated you. We all did. That night at your restaurant, it was the first time I saw you. Not as the little sister, but as the storm we all pretended didn't exist.
I'm sorry.
If you ever need anything at all, I'll show up. I folded the letter and tucked it into the same drawer that held the napkin from my opening night, still stained with marinara and resolve. I didn't respond, because it wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about reclamation. The week after that, a journalist featured my restaurant in a piece titled "The Hidden Gems of the City," woman-owned, soul-fueled. The article went viral. Reservations tripled. Locals wrote notes and left flowers. One woman whispered after her meal, "Thank you for making a place that feels like home for those who never had one." I smiled, because that was the point, wasn't it? To take every dinner I wasn't invited to and build my own table. My own rules. My own love. One night, As I locked up and stepped into the quiet street, the wind shifted. A soft breeze carried the faint scent of lemon zest, just like Mom's old kitchen. But this time, it didn't ache. It simply passed through me. I walked home alone. And for the first time, alone didn't feel like less. It felt like earned peace. Not revenge. Not a performance.
Just peace.
And when I reached my door, I looked up at the stars, smiled, and whispered, I was always enough.